Yeah, Caffeine and Cupcakes, come and get a little taste. I like to listen to it on my break. People been talking, I must say. We keep it real when we show up, gotta do it for the culture. You should come and get to know us, cause we really taking over. The conversation, we keep it authentic. No holding back and we never pretending. Let's get it started, only good energy is what we bringing. You know that I'm with it, ayy. Pour another shot of coffee, get the cupcake like that. Caffeine and Cupcakes, you were checking out the podcast, let's go.
All right, welcome everybody. It's episode 8 of Caffeine and Cupcakes. I'm Alvena, and our host Edward, he's on the line as well. And we have a special guest with us today. It's Chukundi Salisbury. We go way back to CD days. No, I'm playing. I don't really go way back like that, but
I do. I go pretty far back too.
We're excited to have him on to talk about a few things. He's doing some amazing things out there in regards to health and wellness, and has a book out. We want to talk about that, how to get that mindset right so that we can do positive things for ourselves and vibrate that throughout our community. So just excited to have you here. Welcome to the show, okay?
Hey, thanks for having me. Pretty excited to be here myself. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I wanted to say something too, man. So this is something I don't know if I've told you this, but I remember when I was in college and tech was kind of building up during that time, and I remember thinking of some ideas. I was doing a little website development, stuff like that, and then I couldn't figure it out though. And then I came across CSpot, and I was like, oh, these fools have stole my idea. Like,
right? How?
Like, I didn't have exactly that idea, but it was just like I liked the way you put it together. I liked all the format, and I was like, I couldn't figure out how to do that, but it wasn't exactly what I was thinking of. But I liked the presentation of it, and then I remember going to all the parties and stuff like that. And it's one of those things where I enjoyed looking through all the photos, over the years. Like you kind of, so I've always had in the back of my mind, like I always wanted to get into that mindset of cataloging our history. That is history actually. Right, and I don't know if a lot of people think about it that way. So I always want to say shout out to you on that, because that's definitely been like one of the landmark things in Seattle and all the events that you put on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know what I would say to that? Two things, right? I had an epiphany in 1997, actually, is when I thought of the CSpot. And then we launched, it went online in March of 1998.
Okay.
Right? So it was probably online a little bit before you saw it. But the other thing I would say, and I say this to people all the time in terms of, trying to have their business straight and everything else, is that I hear that a lot from folks where they, and I know you're just kind of just playing with it, but a lot of people say, oh man, I had that idea, right? And I would say, in general, what I say to people all the time, almost every day, is that God gives us all ideas, right? Mm-hmm. And you're most certainly not the only person in the world out of the billions of people that have a particular idea, right?
Yeah,
it's all about, the execution of that idea. And are you going to execute on it? Are you going to move on it, right? And so, I was talking to somebody, in fact, 2 days ago, and they have a great idea and they were working on it. I said, well, have you done your trademark? Right? I mean,
ooh, that's me. Yeah, I'm all the way.
Yeah, do you have your federal trademark? Do you have, have you done your due diligence? Right? Not just like putting up an Instagram and saying, this is my idea,
right?
Because it's organic. Like there could be somebody right in Minnesota right now, or in Texas, or in Alabama, or somebody sitting in Tallahassee, Florida on the couch, saying, yeah, that would be a great idea, right? Like, so, and you see things that happen independent of each other in completely different silos, right? And they didn't copy anybody's idea. God gave them the same idea, right? And and they're executing on it as well. And so, and the way that kind of manifests itself with the CSpot, right, is I met some of the cats that have done, there was different sites across the country. I think that we're probably one of the first ones, but like the person that does ATL Royal Picks, right? They go to all the clubs in Atlanta. They, and we all started about the same time. And that person, they didn't, I most certainly had never heard of them, and they had never heard of me. However, they were doing the same thing that we had, right? And there was Dallas Peeps. There was a website called Dallas Peeps around the same time that did the same thing as CSpot. And so it was like an organic thing in different cities. And not once did I ever think, oh, these guys must have copied my idea, right?
Right.
Right.
But the point of that talk right there is that, one, we all get great ideas, right? And the question is, how are you going to execute and implement that, right? And be able to take your vision to the next level, right? And so, and in regards to the CSpot, even though I have a degree in computer science, and most likely could have figured it out over
I didn't
time,
know that.
right? Yeah. So my degree is in computer science from Elizabeth City State University, Elizabeth City, North Carolina, my HBCU. But I, what I did is I reached out to people that had more skills than me. I wasn't afraid to say, okay, well, if I had the time, I probably could teach myself, this particular code or what have you, because that's what college is about, is making sure you learn how to learn. But the question is, do you have the time, right? And so I wasn't too too kind of full of myself, or wanted to do it on my own to where I could share my vision. And that's why it looked like the way it did. It is that I had a vision of what I wanted it to look like. And once I realized that I was limited in that, and I was holding myself back, I put some money together and I hired people, right? And the key was, the key honestly is being able to articulate your vision, right, to the next person. That's where a lot of people get lost, right? Is they know what they want in their head, but they can't tell a person what they want in order to hire them to do it. So, but thank you. Yeah, the CSpot is an amazing thing. We're still chugging along over at CSpot, and look for some updates from us here.
Man, and I just want to piggyback off that, because I graduated UW in 2000. I wasn't computer science, I was information systems, and I was learning how to do some of the coding stuff, some of the back end stuff. But I like website development, so I used to love what you guys did. I used to look at you guys as source code to try to learn, to try to figure it out. Like, how did they do this, and how did they
that's back when you could just right click on the code, right? Everything was HTML. And you could just change the, that was a great time on the internet, man, because you could really kind of copy the source code of something and make your own tweaks in a browser and an editor, and then re-upload that code to your site. And a lot of people learned about HTML on MySpace. Because you could change your code on MySpace to change your page and change the colors and all of that. So definitely, one of the things, shout out to my man, White King, man. He told me the other day, right, that well, not the other day, actually, he told me this a couple of years ago, but and I never thought about it like that, because I was just doing my thing with the CSpot. But we were one of the first Black kind of tech startups, right? I mean, we didn't turn into Facebook or anything, right? But at the end of the day, it was we had a real office and a website, and people working there. We were a real startup, right?
Yeah, you really were. Yeah.
And we were ahead of our time if you think about, all of the people and the resources that are here now, with the companies and the startups and the people in community that have those skill sets. Who's to say what it could have been, right? In a different era, but we were, and also CSpot is like an incubator. A lot of people work there that have gone on and, had their own companies. And so, we did a lot for the scene, as well as for the people, in terms of kind of leading by example at the time.
Well, I can tell you, my fault. Go ahead, Alvena. This is like a treat for both of us. So.
I gotta jump in and say, having, a 12-year-old son who's into technology and coding and all of that, math and sciences and things like that, things I didn't really get into, like what would you say would be like the best route for a young one, a little big fella, to really get into the technology game these days? Like where should they go? What resources should they be checking into?
Well, you know what I would say, apologies trying to get my light straight here. What I would say is that whatever program, whatever your kid is into, there's a program out here for it, right? And we just have to kind of do our due diligence in finding that, right? I run into people so often where they say, man, Kun, there's nothing going on. We need the resources. And that's not true, right? There's so many programs, you know, like I saw, you know, there's a program, coding. There's so many coding programs, right, that are out here. And there's groups on Facebook and the like. And, you know, I know that, there's a lot of programs. So I would just say is that we have to kind of do our due diligence in finding those programs. And then specifically, you know, for technology is to, you know, any types of classes or programs that you can get into, you know, it's amazing. I know that, you know, for arts, for example, you have, you know, with the Coyote Junior High, that Coyote project, they got so much going on around art.
Coyote, is that Coyote Central?
Yeah, Coyote Central. Then I was talking to somebody today, you know, my son is going to be in this filmmaking program up at Langston, right? Nice. There's a SIP filmmaking program. And I'm just pointing it out that it's almost a full-time job to be able to find all of the programs that are going on. But trust me, I know that the Urban League, for example, had a summer academy this summer. You know, there's the ACE Academy over in Southeast Seattle at South Shore, and they've been doing a lot around technology. I know that they've had several big field trips out to Microsoft and Amazon, right? So, you know, the list goes on of programs that are out here for our young people, and oftentimes they have trouble finding enough participants, to tell the truth, right? There, you know, that's one of the, you know, that's a need in our community. I would say is there's still a need, even with, you know, after all these years of trying to connect people with the information, right? That's what CSpot is all about. There's still a need because there's so many programs, like there's sewing programs. I was talking to somebody the other day, they had a girls sew program where it's like a fashion program, and they're sewing machine sergers and designing things, right? But then you hop on Facebook and people say, oh, there's nothing going on. And I guess to synthesize what I'm talking about here, I would just point out that just because you don't see it on your timeline doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? And I think that oftentimes we've all gotten sucked into the timeline, and what we don't realize, and even though we all know it either consciously or subconsciously, is that the algorithm only amplifies the stuff that you are already looking at. Right. And of course, so if you're looking at, you know, whatever videos of people fighting, it's going to show you more videos of people fighting, right? So you have to, if you're looking for something in particular, you have to say it's probably, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and you have to alter your search. Right. And that's really, I think that's what everything right now, you know, because everything, you know, the algorithm is set up to keep you online and keep you looking at things that you like to look at.
It's programming you. It's programming.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so, and obviously, I think, you know, on a national and international level, we know that that's one of the problems with, you know, these sites and social media and everything, is that it's very easy to amplify hate, right? Because if you're already clicking on misinformation or whatever, the algorithm shows you more of that, right? You go and find more like-minded people that are conspiracy theories or whatever, right? So that's what I would say to that, is we just need to, the programs are out here, and it's a lot going on. But oftentimes, I guess I would say this as well. Oftentimes, these programs don't have the budget, if you will, to advertise, right? Because that's the other thing, that the algorithm is set up to where, unless you get a new job or a baby or something, it's not really showing all your friends these things, right? People could have, I got 5,000 friends, but that doesn't mean everybody sees it. They said, Facebook is like, 3 to 7% of your friends see stuff, right? It's really just about 50 people that see your stuff all the time. And then every now and then you post a great picture, maybe 400 or 500 people. You might get to 10%, but it's rare, right? And so all of these systems are set up for us to pay, right? And so most certainly big brands love that because, oh, really? I can reach these people by just paying this money, right? But the program that you're looking for, maybe a technology program for your son, that's not going to be in the algorithm. It's not going to get shown to you because they're not paying, right? And they don't have the budget to pay, right? And so how do they get seen? Is that we have, and so, also to add on to that, the other thing is when we see good news or good community things that should be shared, we have to do a better job of sharing those things because, and get that organic traction.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I love that because me and Alvena have this conversation, and it's been, I guess, in the last couple of weeks, I've been having this thing about distractions. We're so distracted by everything in the world that we be missing out on really good opportunities, like from investment to programs for your kids to all the great things that are actually under our noses. But because our eyes are so geared to whatever, and like you said, these algorithms are feeding you more of what you already know, we're missing out on everything.
I think you know.
Yeah, you think you know. Yeah. You don't even know what's really going on in the world because you're never experiencing any of that. But yeah, I really appreciate it coming from you because you do a lot of different things in the community. And I think probably from the standpoint of people that I know that are consistently doing stuff, I remember a conversation with you at Twilight. And I remember when you first started down there, it was just a few of us down there. And I was like, okay, you were telling me just about business stuff. And I think at that time you might have been partnering with Ciroc type of situation with those guys. Yeah, I remember those conversations. And I remember there's like little nuggets you put out there. And I'm like, I'll be tabling all that stuff in my head. I'm like, man, this dude, I didn't know you're a computer science person back then, but now it makes sense how the stuff you talk about is very similar to stuff I talk about. And I see the things you're doing. And I'll give you this though. I've stopped on some things because of things that you were doing with the success of you walking and losing all the weight. I've gone through the part where I was vegan for 5 months and I posted it and showed a lot of that. And I actually had a lot of people hitting me up as I was vegan. And even when I stopped being vegan, people were like, Ed, I didn't want to tell them I wasn't vegan no more. But I saw how people love following people's stories of getting from one level to the next level.
Yeah.
But one thing I was doing, I wasn't staying consistent with my own, trying to work out here and there. And I remember something you said, and you weren't directing any one person, but I took notice of it. It's like, a lot of us, myself included, sometimes we get a little too exuberant about what we're doing versus just go ahead and do it and let the performance for whatever you're doing, let it speak volumes for what you're doing. So I've scaled back in some stuff. So I've kind of, it's hard for me because it's like I'm in the middle. Like I'm an extrovert by nature. I love to network with people. I love to share with people. I love to try to inspire, but I also recognize you can get caught up in your own little hype. What you're doing, and you really ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, right, man. And I think, and so, no disrespect to anybody else's movement and how they did it, but my entire program, if you will, was just one of moderation, right? And, so today, when I go walking after this, it'll be 243 days in a row, right? Where I just go and walk for 1 hour a day. Right. Yeah. So some days I mostly do it at night, but other days I do it in the morning. If I got something to do that night, maybe I got a DJ or go out or what have you. But the key for me was to kind of keep that off of social media. Right. And I was intentional about that. So I had a few people. I had a circle of about maybe 20 or 30 people that I would kind of text, how Instagram has close friends and then it has all your other. So I have people that I would share with and say, hey, I'm down at, because I started at 306 pounds this year. My highest weight was 418 pounds. Oh, wow. Years ago. And then I lost a lot of weight just through kind of changing my diet, and but I plateaued around 330 pounds.
Okay.
And then I lost a little bit more, and then but this year I decided I was going to really get focused. As I turned 50 last year, I'm going to be 51 here next.
Looking
next
good, man.
No, you're
right?
not.
Yeah,
You're not.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It is
Yeah,
a blessing, man, to be turning 51.
I gotta compete with you now.
Huh?
Because Alvena said something like 2 weeks ago, and we were like,
Yeah, I was like,
Cuz
new
good.
nickname is
Yeah,
Slim
go ahead.
Kun. Yeah, I was like, his new nickname is Slim Kun. And
Well,
then
you know
said,
what? I tell people that I want my 1990 body with my 2021 mind and my 2026 bank account.
Yeah, right there.
Right.
I like that, man.
So, but so the point is that I was real intentional about keeping what I was doing off social media. I would just post a picture every now and then, and people would see. They'd be like, "Wow, what's going on with Kun?" Right?
Yeah, it was a way.
But I never, until I met my goal,
Right.
I never talked about it with the general public, if you will, or I only said something in person. If you saw me in person.
Yeah,
right?
I saw you at Garfield. I saw you at Garfield that one time when they had the rally stuff going on with the Black Lives Matter. I was like, man, okay. All right.
Yeah, I was really intentional about that, because the problem with going online with stuff is as you talked about, distractions, right? Yeah. First of all, everybody's in your mix, right?
Lose your gas.
And everybody has a suggestion, right? You say, "Oh, I'm down 10 pounds," and people say, "Oh, you should do keto. You should do this diet or that diet." You know what? How about I do what's working for me, right? And I was very consistent. And so I just, every week, just methodically, I went and walked, and I changed, I did the intermittent fasting, and I just kind of changed some of the things I ate. I ate more salads now and less pizza, but I most certainly didn't cut out any particular thing, right? So my entire movement has been moderation, and that's moderation in my social posts, right? Like what you're talking about. Yeah. It was moderation in, I wasn't going to go do some extreme workout or something that I knew I wasn't going to sustain. But I know for a fact that I can find 1 hour in the day to go for a power walk, right? Like that's not a stretch, right?
My mama's doing that now, because I've talked about you many times. I moved my mom into my place. She's upstairs. I created like 3 suites out of my townhouse, and she's in one of them. And she gets out early morning. She's out by 10. She's out doing her walk by 45 minutes, and then she'll do it before it gets dark again. She'll do it, and she's been doing it consistently. I don't even say nothing to her. She just be out.
That's the key. That's the key, is being consistent, right? And so, I had my goals. My original goal was to get down to 250, right? From 306. I felt like 250 would have been a good look for me. But now I'm down to 233, right? And of course, my wife has said, "Hey, that's enough." You lost.
I weigh more than you now.
Yeah. This morning I was 234. Right.
Yeah, I'm about 245. Yeah.
And a part of that is because I lost, I shed all of that weight, and now I got to build back a little bit of muscle. So I might get a little bit bigger as I transition into, perhaps weights and other activities, but I continue to walk. And I guess the point is I just had a mindset. I wanted to meet my goal. And I noticed that also now when I post, I might post and say, "Oh yeah, I walked here. I did 4 miles today," and I'll post a little picture. And people that were inspired, they say, "Oh man, I only did 2 miles. Man, I got to step it up." Why? Did you do an hour? Trap. Yeah. Did you try as hard as you could while you were walking? Yeah. Well, then that's what the goal is, right? And that's why I try to stay away from telling people how many miles I did or how many steps. I really like to measure it in time, right? In that, I did an hour, right?
Yeah, you're right, because everybody's pace is different. You're a tall guy, you got
pace
different
is
cadence.
Different. Yeah, exactly. Right. I got long legs, I'm pretty tall. And so you can't, I told Ma, you're like 5'2". How are you going to have the same stride as me? right? Don't compare yourself to me. And that's what the internet, it just creates a contest.
A comparison trap.
I kept my stuff to myself till I met my goal, right? And one of the things I said while I was during that time, I didn't tell people I was going to do it. I just went and did it, right? And I think that's one of the things that's so novel about what I'm doing is that because you're like, wow, what, where did that come from? Because, for people that document every little thing now, right? People got their phone at the gym. They say, oh yeah, I'm getting gas right now. Oh, I'm at Excel's right now. Oh, I'm at, for me to just kind of pop up after a few months, right? It took me 166 days, to lose 60 pounds and get off my diabetes medicine, right?
Yes.
And so I just kind of popped up. I never really said anything about it because and to your point, Ed, I guess is that I was in my own zone. And I think you're right. Sometimes people's fitness journey becomes too performative, right? And so and it becomes too much and then it's not sustainable, right? Like these people and who knows, everybody's different. But I look at some people's posts, right, and they spend half their time at the gym setting up the camera to document their workout, right? And they go strong. They do it. They do it for maybe a month. Some of them a month and a half, right? I've seen a couple people even make it to 2 months. But, I'm 8 months in, right? Every day. I've never missed a day. And part of that is because I'm not concerned about the performative piece of it, right? I know I want to inspire people and I want to talk to people, but not at the expense of my program and where I can't sustain what I'm doing.
Yeah, man.
Tell us about the book.
Yeah, so there it is right here, right there behind me there, Little Big Fella. So yeah, The Adventures of Little Big Fella, it's on sale right now at littlebigfella.com. Came out with the comic book. This actually, and it's funny. I'm gonna go buy one now. Yeah, what's interesting about the comic book story is that clearly I'm not, Mr. Comic Book or artist. And people ask me, did I draw it? No, I didn't draw it. Well, did you write all the words in it? No, I didn't write all the words in it. But it is my story. I came up with the story. And the concept, right? And then as I talked about earlier, I found people that helped me realize my vision, right? So shout out to my man Jeff Cheatham. A lot of people know him locally for his books.
Jeff,
yeah, that's my man. And so I came up with the story, the overall story. And then Jeff, if this was a movie, it'd be like Jeff did the screenplay, if you will, right? So he came up with a lot of the dialogue based upon, me telling him the story and how we wanted it to go. And so the comic book is a real interesting comic. It really follows 4 young people who are in middle school, and they have an altercation with the police, where one of the coaches has an incident with and the book speaks to police accountability and some of the issues around that. And but more importantly, the book also looks at, adult relationships and how we treat each other and young people, forgiveness, reconciliation. And there's just a real focus on social and emotional learning in the book, right? And
I'm actually buying. I'm buying it right now. There's only 2 more copies left. I'm buying the last 2 for.
I appreciate it. We'll have to restock.
Yeah.
We'll have to restock by the time this goes up. We'll have restocked a little bit. But so yeah, the comic book. It's in a series, so I'm coming out with the whole series. And Little Big Fella really is just about representation. Representation matters. It's important to see yourself. And see our young people need to see themselves in these books and see themselves in, in things that come out. And then I wanted to have a book that really spoke to our experience. And so, we came up with this story 3 years ago. This was way before George Floyd, right? And so it just came out way before George Floyd and all of that. And honestly, it just took me a long time, right? I'd be at my own pace. It took me a long time to get it all together. And that's the reason it took so long to come out, because, you know, we came up with the idea and then worked with Jeff for a few months to get the story right. And then I had to go and find some illustrators. I found my illustrator, right? And then you have to, you know, so there's a couple of processes when you create a book. You have to do the inks and the coloring, and there's a lot to it. There's a whole team that puts a comic book together. And then I had to get my trademark, right? And that's one of the things I talked about at the top of the show is that just because you have this great idea, it could be somebody, the term little big fella, you know what I mean? Of course, I feel like it's my idea, but there could be somebody right now in Boston that calls their cousin little big fella, right? It's not like it's you know what I mean? It's in the lexicon. And so it was important for me to make sure that I got my idea, my intellectual property copyrighted and trademarked, right? So
I want to ask you about that too, because I do that. I do my own trademarks, and you know, I learned how to do it. Did you do it on your own? Did you work with somebody?
No, pay the money. I mean, that's fine. Like if you do it, that's good for you, right? But me personally, I saved up and I just went through LegalZoom, right? And it was a lot, right? It was like $1,200 through LegalZoom. And of course, you know, people tell me, "Oh man, you could have did that yourself, or you could have did that." You know what?
And I would say no to that because I've done it by myself, but I'm a different type of person. Like I made mistakes where almost, you know, I got Motivated Life. I got a couple other trademarks. I got Motivated Life because one other person that had it, I had this idea, like you said, try to do it, looked it up. Ah, man, somebody got it. But it said abandoned, and I have a friend that works there, and I called her. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Well, they had a certain timeline to either go back and get it or it's going to be free. And so I put it on my calendar, the date that it's supposed to be free, 12:01 in the morning. I was like checking. They didn't get it. Boop, boop, boop. Did it real quick. But between that time, I had learned so much, and I asked a lot of questions, watched a lot of video, and I started reading actual court documents from FUBU, how they lost and how they fought against, or they won against Walmart. So I'm a different type of mentality. I will read all the court documents like a lawyer. But I realized the amount of time I put into it, you know, I put way more than $1,200 of time. So like if you have a lawyer that knows their job, they went to school to know this stuff. So I would say, don't do it by yourself unless you are going to put maximum effort into something, but you're going to spend a lot more than $1,200 of your time trying to even
time is money, man.
Barely. You're right.
Time is money, man. And so, I just, like I said, man, I went to LegalZoom, right? I've actually found some people locally. A friend of mine, Kevin Loyal, his wife is a new lawyer, and that's one of the things she's specializing in is this intellectual property, because we have so many people in our community. I forgot her name to tell the truth, but her husband's name that I know is Kevin, right? Kevin, and so, I most certainly could connect you to.
That'd be cool.
We can connect offline, but the point is that it takes almost a year to get your trademark, right? So a lot of people don't understand this part, right? So you file for the trademark, right? And then basically there's like a 6-month period where anybody in the country could challenge and say, well, no, actually, I'm that person, right? But like you said, Ed, most people aren't checking, because even though there's a notice from the trademark office that says, oh, yeah, by the way, Ed Newbins has applied for this trademark, right? There's no real big newsletter. Like you have to be tracking that, right? So right now, for somebody that's watching, say they came up with XYZ candles, right? That's their new business. There could be somebody that has your name and they could be filing the trademark for it because you're so busy on Instagram telling everybody about your new business that you have not trademarked. Right. So I didn't say nothing about Little Big Fella until I had my business straight. You know what I mean? I went and got of course I went and got the domain name and then I went through the process of getting my trademark on this because I really want to run with it. I want it to be a big thing. And so I got my trademark. And then once you have it and they give it to you, there's like an additional 6 months to where somebody can challenge your having it. And you have to have an actual product for sale. So it's not
that happened to me.
Yeah.
I lost out on So just real quick, my beginning company was called my little nephew's name is Mosey. Nickname. His name is Moses, but we call him Mosey, and I spelled it a different way. So I started my first company being IMOSI, meaning I motivate, originate, succeed, inspire. Can't nobody remember that, so I was like, I gotta come up with a better name. Like Motivate Life is what came after that. But as I went for that, some 6 months later, 8 months, a year later almost, I get a notice talking about somebody's contested my trademark, and I'm like, get out of here. So I had to go do the research and find out it was a Japanese company that was already had the trademark out, and it was spelled. Mine was spelled IMOSI. Theirs was spelled IMOSSI, and they did trademark before me. And I had a choice to make. Like, do I want to try to go down this path and build a business based off of something that it's like McDonald's and McDowell's? Like, I can see your point. It was me. It's like somebody taking Motivate Life and put another an extra E on it or something like that. Come on, man. That's mine. So I knew better. I'm not even going to challenge them. I lost the money. Just let it go. But it made me think, like, yeah, you really have to pay attention. And just because you went for something don't mean somebody else already didn't think about it and beat you to the punch.
Right. And so that's, I mean, I think, you know, obviously I'm excited about my project and my book, and I'm rolling it out across the country. Right. And I do have ambitions of, you know, I really think that, you know, Lil Big Fella could be the next Fat Albert. Right. It could really be, you know, a high level national or international type of character with the right, if we make the right moves from here on out. But that being said, I spent a whole year where I told a couple of people, of course, you know, my family knew, and people that, you know, if you came by the office and you saw, you know, the draft, or I would have a copy of it, but I never posted on the internet like, oh yeah, coming soon, right? You know how cats are. Everybody's so busy to share their news, so ready to tell the world, look what I'm working on. And it's not even, it's like pulling it's like keeping open in the oven and your cake is baking and you're like, look what I got cooking. Look what I got cooking. You're going to mess up your cake, right? And it might not even, you know, like a batch of baking bread. It's not even going to rise the right way because you keep opening the oven, right? And so, you know, I went for basically almost 2 years, and I used to have to tell Jeff about it, right? Because I would run into somebody. And shout out to Jeff, like I said, that's my man. But he was excited about the project. And I know he had told a couple people just maybe like, oh man, guess what Kun got going, right? Can I get it right? You know, Kun Luv got the chocolate. It's totally different for me. And it is kind of newsworthy if you think about it. Like, I'm known for CSpot and all these other things. But coming out with a comic book would probably be the last thing that you would think that I would do, right? If you follow me all these years. And so, yeah, I get it. It's pretty exciting. But I ran into somebody up at somewhere, and he was like, "Yeah, I heard about your comic book," and I was pissed, right? Because you know, I seen Jeff, and I waited till I saw him in person.
Keep my name out your mouth.
Well, no, I mean that's my man. He helped me write the next issue too, right? So I just had to kind of explain this piece to him, right? That you know, I feel like this could be a big thing, right? And so it's important to handle all your business, right? And that trademark piece is something I would say so many people in our community, and I would say probably across the country, but most certainly in our community, because these are the people that we're around, that they just are not, they're oblivious to that. They go ahead and they get their website. Yep. They get their logo done. They up on Fiverr getting some designs. Yep. They got the Instagram. They got the Facebook page. All out of order. But it's all out of order. You need the business license. Right? Yeah, your trademark, right? Yep. These are the things that you need to get first, right? And then once I got all of that stuff straight, that's when I was able to kind of roll it out, right? So after the 6 months, I was able to put up the website that because you know you got to show that it's for sale, right? Yep. You can't just trademark this idea that or at least 1A,
1B. Yep, 1A, 1B on this.
1A and 1B, right? So so that's why it took so long for it to come out, right? Is that I really wanted to make sure my business was handled. And then I'd also paid everybody. So everybody involved with my project, you know, I did, okay, how much you charge? And I cashed them out, right? Then I have to save up for the next thing, you know, and I know people probably like, cuz quit saying you had to save up. Like, cuz got, but no, I saved up, right? Like, and I would take money and put it to the side, and that's what I used, right? So I guess the point of this entire little story to people that are watching right now is that You know, there's no shortcuts to your project, right? And you would be kicking yourself if you go through all this work and try to build a successful brand, and just to come to find out that there's somebody in Tennessee that's got the same kind of thing going, and they did all their due diligence. Yeah. And then they send you a cease and desist letter, and you have to shut your business down. Like, that is the worst thing that could happen to you, right? And so and nobody's really talking about that part, right? If you look at all the memes, right, and everybody's on Instagram, start your business, quit making somebody else rich, and we got to support Black business. It's not a lot of people talking about handling your real business, right? Which is not the creativity or the production of your product, your candles, your hairline, whatever it is you're doing, right? Because that's fairly easy to do now, right? You can hop on any of these websites and order you some stuff from China somewhere, slap your label on it, be out here, put up your website, put up your Shopify. Like, all of those things are fairly turnkey, and you literally could have your product out, especially if it's t-shirts or something else, you could have your entire business out in a month, right? But like I said, it could be all for naught if you haven't handled the rest of your business.
And one thing I want to add to that too is, like, I do have these conversations. I talk to Alvena about it. I talk to everybody I know about it, because this is my language. I'm like, the whole idea of, I went to UW Business School, so I did the information system program through that, but I also did inroads as an internship, and I learned a lot about high level business because I had an internship at private banking at Key Bank. And I got to see the Nordstroms. I got to see Phil Condit, CEO of Boeing. I've seen a lot of high-level people that are so nondescript about anything. You wouldn't even know who they are. But they taught the whole idea. Is like one gentleman, internet era, he was able to sell his company for a couple $100 million back then. And because he owned it, he talked about the idea of owning stuff. He sold an idea. It wasn't fully baked. It's no different than Mark Cuban. He had broadcast.com. I think he sold for a couple $2 billion. He actually had a product out that was actually taking like news stuff, or not news, but sports, and put it on the internet back in the days. That was a big thing back then. But he owned everything to where he could actually sell it to a company. They could actually buy the IP. They could actually buy what he developed. And like you said, a lot of people be having these ideas, which are great, but they didn't secure the IP. You can't even sell it to somebody. Somebody wants to come to you, like to Shark Tank. If you watch Shark Tank, that's what they always ask. Like, do you got a trademark? Do you because you have to have skin in the game, and can they actually invest in it or buy it from you legally? And actually, I ran into that issue with Seattle Fashion Week, Quiet as Kept. We had an issue where the logo was not owned; it was owned by somebody else. So when we did an event, so me and Barry were doing, we did a Tesla event. He was DJ, I was doing my thing with the video and all that stuff, and somebody came up to me from Tesla, was like, hey, and this is my fault. It wasn't my fault, but I learned a lot from that. They were like, yeah, just don't take no pictures of Tesla and no signage and that kind of stuff. And I was like, huh? Wait, what? We're at Tesla event. This is dope. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, but based on legal, some information came out because they checked. They did their due diligence and made sure that whoever they're doing business with, they don't want to be caught up in no issue later on. And it's like, no, you just make sure you don't do it. And I found out the reason why later. I'm like, dang, all right. But that was a powerful thing. They want to protect their brand. They don't want no issues.
Yeah, you don't want to be associated. So I guess, again, man, I'm super excited about, my particular book and bringing it to community, and just that whole entire journey of mine. I'm actually working on another issue right now. Like I mentioned, Jeff has helped me with the screenplay, if you will, for that. And so I've sent that. I've got my team working on that right now. We hope to have that coming out soon. But again, I would just say that the book is really about, it's just a tool for having hard conversations and creating conversation, right? And I just wanted something that was relevant to our experience. And I can give you like a little preview of the next book. In the next book, there's a boy at Little Big Fella School that is really cool, and everybody likes him. He's got the LeBrons and, iPhone 13 and whatever, right? So he's got all the best stuff, right? And Little Big Fella is his locker mate, and during gym. And little big fella finds out that he has a gun that he's been bringing to school. And he's really conflicted, right? Because, and that happens to our, you know, a lot of kids in our community, they know, but they don't want to be no snitch, right?
Exactly.
Right. And everybody would say, you know, I ain't no snitch, right? So, I mean, where does that come in, right? Like, where's your due diligence to protect your family and your classmates in your school versus not wearing the snitch jacket, right? And in middle school, you know, your reputation and not standing out is like the key, right? I mean, you know, middle schoolers, then nobody wants to get too much attention, right? And so, you know, and that's another real life issue, you know, because I live in the South End, and just the other day, a 14-year-old shot a 17-year-old in front of Sharpless Elementary. So these are real things.
Oh, wow.
That happen in our community and are realistic to our kids. I wanted to make sure this is not just like some kind of Archie comic book where, you know, I mean, it is coming of age stories, but it's coming of age stories with the lens through our, you know, urban environment, right? You got stuff that happens. I mean, we got guns in school. Like, that's a reality.
Yep, guns, drugs, all that.
Yeah, guns, drugs, everything. You know, the police beating people up. Like, that's a part of, you know, a lot of urban kids, you know, reality. So, I mean,
you told one of our stories, man. It happened to me, Ajane, Damon Burrell, and Tim Wilson. We all got arrested by the police. I was 11. I think Ajane is a year younger than me. You know, we're about the same age. Yeah. And we got put in handcuffs by UW, a Lower Hills area, community center down there. And literally, I didn't say it this way back then, but basically we got kidnapped by the police because we're 11 and 12. You threw us in the car individually, put handcuffs on us. And that was my first Uber ride home to the CD. You know? Yeah. And that was real stuff. You know, it always happened. It wasn't just the first time that kind of stuff happened to kids. It's been going on in our community.
Well, yeah. And that's why I say, I mean, that's why I feel like this, you know, the brand and the storylines and the type of stories that we can tell, are universal. I mean, well, first of all, coming of age stories are tried and true, right? From Cosby Show on up to now and everything in between, different strokes, but also just the Black experience, you know, and what we go through is completely different, right? One of the things that I found with the comic book, although it was an unintended consequence, is that I had a lot of white people who loved the comic book because it really spoke to, first of all, a lot of people's kids, you know, they're going to school in places where they might not have a lot of Black kids there. And this was the first time they had a book that had all Black characters in it. And if you want to have your kid, you know, grow up and normalize seeing Black people, seeing, you know, where it's not an oddity, this is a great book to buy, right? And have books like it in your household, so you know your kids can see this kind of stuff. And then also, the book also allowed a lot of people to have hard conversations around, you know, George Floyd and the racial reckoning and things that happened last summer. You know, a woman told me, she was like, "Yeah, this is a great book because, you know, I didn't want to show my kid, you know, George Floyd getting the life choked out of him with the knee. However, I do want to illustrate or talk about why, you know, Black Lives Matter and why, you know, Black people are upset at the police, right? Like, you know, and so this comic book allows you to have that particular, it allows folks to have that kind of conversation without having to actually see the true violence of what it is. Because in fact, it is a comic book at the end of the day, right? It's not a graphic novel, right? You know, so it's a comic book, and there's always a happy ending, right? We're gonna, you know, make sure that we kind of tie a ribbon on it, but it's definitely a tool for again, social and emotional learning.
Man, I want to say this because it's like, it's funny because me and Alvena, we've been talking about everything you're talking about on a business level and meeting and having good energy and teams like that. We've been exercising that for the whole time since I met her. And we've kind of developed this Caffeine Cupcake thing. And we've had ideas about characters and things of that nature. And I'm like, and I laugh because I was like, I think I saw something you had like something with a squirrel, something like that, and I was like, man, cuz gonna think that I am bite him to a T because I have a squirrel that comes to my yard all the time, and I've literally have conversations with the squirrel. I've recorded it, filmed it, and I've had like really funny dialogue with a squirrel through this pandemic. And I said that should be something. I said, well, I can't do it that way because Kun already did it, but I gotta find my own spin. But I think one of the things that's funny because you're like a visionary type person. You know, you're ahead of the game at least by almost a decade for most things I see. You know, when I look at things, really, you really are, because I see how you operate with, you know, the CSpot thing. You know, I graduated UW in 2000, so I actually knew about that because I was going to the parties. I knew about CSpot. So you're on the high level technology side of it, and then just be your involvement in the community. You know, everybody knows who you are, and it's always good stuff. It's never like negative stuff. So it's kind of like when you were running for mayor, things of that nature. I was like, man, I wish Kun did win, because actually I'm surprised that you didn't, because of like so many people know you and your reputation is so big, and it's just one of those situations. I was like, well, people are missing out, you know, because we're not getting the person that really knows what's going on and been there the whole time.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that, man. That's a lovely thing to say. You know, I guess what I would say, and it's truly, I post all the time. I say I'm super blessed and highly favored, right? Because oftentimes you have either people that have really good ideas, and they just have no way to execute it, and they don't know how they're going to move on that, or they don't move on it.
Right.
And then you have people that are really good at execution, right? Like if you tell them what to do, or you send them, you know, a blueprint to how it's supposed to go, they can scale that immensely. Like those kind of people do really well in those kind of network marketing, right? They have the personality, they have it, but they just don't have a product. So if you give them prepaid legal or Quickstar or Primerica or IntelliTravel, right, they're gonna take it and scale it and become great, right? And what I would say is every now and then there's like a perfect storm, as I would call it. And I have epiphanies every now and then, but where you have the ability to have a great idea, but then on the other hand, be able to execute and see that idea through to fruition. And that's when it's a good thing, right? And that's what sometimes I've been blessed to have a few of those kind of moments in my life where I've had an idea and I've been able to see it all the way through to a product, right? And so I always have great respect for people, regardless if their product is crap, right? They had an idea,
the process,
and they saw it through. They saw it through, right? And so, I have a lot of respect for people that have an idea and see it through, because so many people have ideas and they have no way, they just cannot see it through. As regards to like running for office, that was a crazy time. I mean, I ran for state representative, not there, but thank you.
My fault,
And I just would say that politics, you know what I tell people now is that politics, the definition of politics is things that don't make sense. Right? And I learned that during the campaign. There's just a lot of things that happen. Shout out to my opponent. She got, those votes fair and square, but she raised a lot more money than me. And one thing I would say about our community and the people that we know is that we really have to move the needle. We move the needle a lot. Like, trust me, I talked to so many people where they never voted, right? Or they kind of don't vote, right? But they came out and they voted because I was on the ballot, right? Like, they're now engaged in politics, right? So that was amazing. We took people along with that. It wasn't just me. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump was on the ballot, a lot of people were going to come out, right? And so we took a lot of people. What I like to say is we took people from 0 to 1, right? We had a lot of people that don't vote, or they're not really engaged, and they say, you know what, I'm a vote this time. I'm going to get involved, right? But in order to get the kind of candidates I would say that we want to have, we have to take people from 1 to 2, right? And so from 1 to 2 would be, you have to actively go out and campaign for your candidate. And we are not in Houston, right, where it's like this black neighborhood or what have you, right? We have a real spread out system, and we need people to not just say, I'm gonna vote for you, Kun, because a lot of people said that, right? Oh yeah, Kun, I got you, brother. I'm gonna vote for you. And they most likely did, right? I know a few people that did, but that's fine. Right. But the key is that they need to go out and talk to their Asian neighbor across the street, the white lady down the block, right? The white guy that's working on his truck, you know, the Filipino dude that sits, you know, on his porch and drinks tea. Like, you have to go out and campaign for your candidate. And I think we have a lot of, you know, in our community, we're kind of complacent around that. Like, we felt like our vote, and that it's the naivete of that, right? We feel like our vote is enough. Well, nah, I'm gonna vote for him. We got this, brother. Like that was like, I'm done.
Yeah, go
right?
knock on
and
doors.
That's not how it works at all, right? You have to go out and try to get more votes, right? Because we're in the minority, right? Like, so if you really want the kind of candidates that speak to you and your values, right, then you have to actively go out and get those candidates. And you'll see in high level campaigns, right, these people are zealots. Like, they go out and get it. They're out there working on behalf of that candidate, right? And so we had a lot of people that most certainly said, you know, they say, oh, you know what, I don't usually vote, but I'm going to vote for you. And they did, right? But they left it at that, at 1. And we need to get them to 2. Right. And then to really win, I would say we need to get people to 3. And so 3 would be the person that, 1, obviously votes, 2, is engaging their people outside of their immediate circle. Right. Because when people tell you, they say, oh, come on, I told everybody. What you told the 10 people that you talk to all the time. Right. You got to tell people outside, and plus people in your neighborhood are people that vote where you vote. The fact that you're telling the homie in Tacoma that you're voting for Kun, that doesn't help us, right? So get people to 2 where they're actively engaging their community, right? When I talk about their voting community, right? So that means that other people on their block,
your
the people that they're riding the bus with, maybe to work, right? Or they're on the train. Hey, have you heard about this candidate? Let me tell you about this candidate I'm voting for. And that's a departure, right? That's extra work that you have to do. But to really win, we have to also get people to understand that it's the money, right? So my opponent outraised our campaign. We raised about $160,000, which is a lot of money, right? However, my opponent, she raised almost $300,000. She outraised me 2 to 1. And it shows, right? And it showed in the, you know, and I just don't think, I mean, a lot of people, we've got them from 0 to 1, and then we've got a few people from 1 to 2, but we have to, as a community, put our money where our mouth is, right? And be able to give to candidates. And I think Black people have just been burned so many times through politics, or it's just not in our culture to give to something that you just don't see the return on, right? And to invest in politics. And if you see other cultures, other people, you know, most notably, you know, white folks, right? They will, in fact, go out and invest, and they give to candidates that they believe in, even if they're going to lose. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day, they were behind some people that ran for mayor this time in the primary, and they didn't think that they were going to win, but they were making a statement with their money. And they were saying that we need more candidates like this person. And even though they might not win this time, we're making a statement. So there's an investment in the candidates that share your values, right? And I would say that we as a community have to work on that piece to get the kind of money that it takes to win an election, right? Just the media, the staff that you got to have, the campaign offices, all of those things, it just costs money to run. And a lot of people that we all know and are most likely listening to this podcast, I would say, when's the last time they gave to a campaign, right? And most people haven't, right? They just haven't. They might have gave some money to Obama, but that was Obama. You know what I mean? And so they're not necessarily given to local politics, right? And again, the reason why I think so is that they just don't see the return on the investment. I mean, we want an immediate return. And this is something that it's hard to get your mind around, this political piece. It's kind of putting money in a black hole. And an example of that is during my campaign, I would ask people for $50, right? Hey, can you donate $100, $50 to the campaign? And these are people that I know got it, right? Come on, we all move around. I know that you got it. I mean, come on, I'm on your page. I see what you flexing, right? And people would say, oh man, Kun, I don't do politics. I'm gonna vote for you though, brother, blah, 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 right? And I don't know, like you could tell they weren't gonna donate, right? Clearly, right? But then this same type of person, or there are multiple people this actually happened with, is I had to change the way I asked for the money with my network.
What do you mean? Like, how's that?
The way that I changed it, I asked for the money, instead of me calling you and saying, hey, Ed, I really need help on this campaign. Can you donate $50 to the campaign? It's going to help us. We got to buy some radio ads, whatever, right? I would tell you that. And then, of course, you would say, oh, man, I can't swing it right now. So then I would call you back maybe a couple weeks later with the new approach. And I say, man, Ed, these people have been stealing my campaign signs. I got to get some new yard signs. Okay. The yard signs cost $5 a piece. Right. And if you help me out, this is where I'll put your signs at. I'll put one at, 23rd and Yesler, blah, blah, blah. And people could see that. Oh, what, Kun? They took your signs? Oh, yeah, bro. Here's 100. You go ahead and get 20 signs, bro. Okay. Yeah. And you put my sign. I want my signs on Union. I want my sign. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, bro, you just told me 2 weeks ago that you couldn't even do 50. But now that you're actually getting a product, right? Like you get something that you can see. You're getting something that you can see with your own two eyes. And when you drive by there, you can tell your partners, yeah, that you see Kun sign, yeah, I paid for that one. That's my sign right there. And people was eating that up, right? And so I started raising a lot of money like that. I would call people and say, can you give me $25? I need 5 new signs in your neighborhood. So I know you stay on Beacon Hill. Can you give me $25, $50 for new signs? And that's when donations started to take off, but I had to do this whole bait and switch. I had to speak to the fact that these people really couldn't see giving money to a political candidate for the real expenses of running for office, right? But they could see getting something in return, like right now. So, those are some of the things around running for office and just kind of, community. I think that people, that we just have to continue to move the needle on. And we've done a lot of great work getting people registered to vote. We've done a lot of great work getting people engaged and then actually wanting to vote, right? But what we haven't done in terms of trying to get candidates that share our values, we haven't done the work that it takes in terms of reaching outside of our community, right? And this is Seattle. We all have diverse neighbors. We all got maybe a Vietnamese neighbor or Filipino neighbor or some white people down the block. Like you have to talk to them.
That's my whole street.
The whole street. It's not just like talking to your partners that's going to help win elections.
One thing I was going to add to that too. Oh, my fault. Go ahead, Alvena.
Oh, no, go ahead. You add, and then I'm going to switch it.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, because, different experiences I've had in the community stuff, NAACP, that was good and bad, but I learned a lot from this experience. Being involved in the Boys and Girls Club, I noticed a lot of times, good or bad, we don't come to the table to discuss these type of, hey, who's running? We don't really talk about politics. We don't talk about the strategy of it. It's not just in politics, but we were talking about investments earlier and, being distracted. Like sometimes I think our community, we get so distracted by so many things that it may not be as important as, who's running for office is very important. If you don't understand how resources get allocated and access to whatever's coming down the pipeline that you won't know anything about, but you need to trust somebody like yourself. Hey, this guy's at the table. We need our people at the table, because you may not be paying attention. You know all the stats of all the Seahawks players, but you don't know nothing about what's going down the street. And so I give you an example. One thing was, the waterfront project. That's been going on for 6 or 7 years. I was at the original meetings on a regular basis. And I remember looking around and I wouldn't see no black people, maybe some people that work for the city of Seattle, and that's about it. And I'm like, yo, but this affects the Central District. This affects all the waterfront stuff. And then after, 3 or 4 years, when people have been buying up certain properties here and there or making little moves, and we turn around like, whoa, what happened? Yo, these meetings that y'all didn't want to go to, they were talking about this stuff at the meeting. I remember Anthony Shoecraft, he was doing Skyway Solutions. I went to the meetings. People were just like, okay, whatever. And he was like, yo, Skyway is going to be the next thing. And you need to buy property now, or don't give up your property right now. Don't do that. Right. Yeah. And what did people do? They moved out to Kent and Federal Way. And they're talking about, gentrification. I said, yeah, gentrification happens, but there's also a situation where we are freely giving up our resource because we're not at the table to understand. Maybe you can't make it to the meeting, but Kun's at the meeting, or this other person at the meeting. Where's our strategy to support him and what he's doing, so we can get the information back, so we know what's going on in the community? Like you might not be able to make. You got kids, you got other stuff going on. You're distracted about life. Okay, I get it, but we're not galvanizing together to make a strategy. Like maybe we just send our representative with somebody like you. That's what it would have been.
Well, and that's true, man. But on the other hand, like I said, I'm really, I truly wanted to win that election. I didn't just put my name. Some people say, "Oh, it's your name's out there." I said, "Well, listen, my name is already out with my community." Like, I wasn't interested in just trying to get my name out there with these people to be known. Like, I was already kind of low key local famous. Like, I didn't need that.
Oh no, I didn't mean it like that. No, I mean like we need somebody like you there.
I guess what I'm pointing out, what I'm really trying to say here is that we do need people that are trying to win and really be able to expand on the points. Like I said, get people in our community to level 3, right? To really be engaged. And unfortunately, back to your original topic, I know you're going to switch up, Alvena, but it's the distractions, right? Because we saw that where everybody talked about Black Lives Matter and they wanted police accountability. But then when it came time to get on the Zoom call and testify, in Olympia for these police accountability bills, Black people wasn't there, right? But we was, and so we're distracted. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I'm just pointing out that we have to have a level of engagement, and it's very difficult. That's why we have some of the system that we have. Life happens, so it's very difficult to stay on top of all of these things. Yeah. And that's why you really want to try to do your due diligence on candidates to see how close they are to representing you and your values before you move forward.
Good point. Yeah. I followed up. I know you got the next.
I don't know. It's not a whole lot, just really wrapping it up and bringing it back around. And lightening it back up. We talked about politics and change and justice and all these here type of things. What events do you have coming up? I know there's
I got a lot.
Winter, so Black Santa. I mean, I know you got to get a smaller suit now. Probably or stuff the one that you have for Black Santa.
Yeah, I do have to get a. Actually, I got to figure out what kind of padding I'm going to get for my Black Santa this year, because I plan on doing that. Fortunately, I still have the beard. So we're going to be doing Black Santas. Lots of stuff coming up for me. And so on the party tip, I got the Virgo party coming up on September 17th.
On September 22nd.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get it. So that's Virgo weekend. I got a Kun Luv roast on September 16th in Tacoma. I've got a Virgo Gala September 18th out in Des Moines. Still DJing a lot of different weddings and things like that. So folks that want to tap in with that. I've been lining up a lot of book signings. So I'm working on some book signings out in Portland. One of the companies I'm working with in Portland is called Third Eye Accessories and Gifts. It's called Third Eye Bag. Right, they're a Black-owned bookstore in Southeast Portland, and I think they're the only Black-owned bookstore in Portland. So working with them to help get the comic book out there and for a win-win. So taking the show on the road, and then I plan on doing some additional book signings in DC, Atlanta, LA. Really just trying to push the project. Also with Mothers for Police Accountability, we've got our annual breakfast coming up in November. That's going to be a great event. As you guys may or may not know, my mother, Reverend Harriet Walden, so one of the co-founders of Mothers for Police Accountability, and this will be, I believe,
I met your 30. Mom.
Yeah.
I met your mom at NAACP. I met her at one of the meetings down there.
Yeah, so lots going on, and then we're going to roll into winter, like I said, with the Black Santa, 100 Black parents. We've got several scholarships that we plan on giving out this fall to African-American students at Garfield High School and beyond. We've got so lots of scholarships coming up and advocacy work for parents. And so those are just some of the things that I got coming up on the radar for myself and my brands and everything else. You know, CSpot is still going strong. We're still on social media, and follow us at the on Instagram and the like. So those things are still happening. And then just doing a lot of marketing and promotion, doing a lot of work with Live Nation and other producers. As live entertainment comes back, you'll see me in a lot more places and shows and the like. So yeah, I'm just excited about all that kind of stuff. But Little Big Fella is my next, I feel like that's my retirement plan, if you will.
Man, how do you?
And more information if we wanted to join if you wanted to join the community of folks who are walking with you or want to know how to.
Well, you know what, I am, but so that's another thing I'm working on. Right, is my is documented. I most certainly documented my journey, even though I didn't really post it a lot. And so I am putting together a most likely an ebook on how I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. Right. But me personally, I just try to inspire people, but people, I walk by myself. Right. And I had these headphones on. Because it's a power walk. And what I found is when I first started walking, I tried to walk with people down at Seward maybe or something, but it's like a reunion. It's a fashion show. You're waving to people, you're stopping and talking, you're breaking your stride. Yeah. So like I said, I encourage everybody to do their own thing, because at the end of the day, one of the things I found is that nobody can do it for you. Right. And I spent years trying to get other people, I was trying to get somebody to pay me to lose weight. I was trying to do everything, but I came to the conclusion that only I could do it. Right. And that's one of the reasons why I think I've been successful, is that I've come up with a program, my walking program here, where I walk an hour a day, a power walk, is that I don't need anybody else to do it. Right. And so I advise people to stay away from, it's great going to the gym with your girlfriends and whatever. We're all going to go take Zumba together. And that might work for some people. But the problem with that, and I saw for me, is it's not sustainable. Because I went to Seward Park with my guy, Terrell. And maybe it's a day that I couldn't make it or he couldn't make it. And then next thing you know, both of us didn't go that day. Right.
Right.
And so, again, that's why I wanted to focus on something that I didn't need anybody else to do, because I knew it would be sustainable. So to answer your question, there is no walking club with Kun, but I do want to do some events just to kind of maybe jumpstart people, right, where they can come out and I do plan on having like a walk challenge, if you will. But right now, when I go for my walk, I go by myself, and I don't do it with people.
I can't keep up. It would be a run for me. Like you be moving. I was a run.
So those are the things that I got coming up. but there's always stuff on the horizon. You know, I just encourage people. One of the things that I was telling one of the young DJs the other day, I like this DJ, and his name is it's Trent, right? And on Instagram, it's like it's Trent, right? It's his handle. And always, you know, I like how he moves, right? So I was telling him, I said, you know, it's your time, right? And I'm not saying that like I'm washed up or nothing, but I'm gonna always reinvent myself and be able to have, because I got to keep my bag right. I got to keep that money covered, right? And so I want, you know, I'm going to leave space, you know, and so I just want to be, I always want to pivot and reinvent myself to where I'm always going to be relevant in some capacity, right? And what I saw with DJing, right, is it's cool, right? You're young, you're out here, you're at the club, you're popping bottles. You know, I did all that. Right. And it's time, let somebody else live with that. And I told him, I said, man, you know, you need some help, you need some advice, you want to borrow some equipment, let me know, because I'm transitioning into other things. Right. I'm still going to always be DJ Kun Luv. I'm always going to be available to do somebody's wedding or this event, or they want me to DJ the Patti LaBelle show. But I'm not really trying to be at this club or that club anymore. Right. And it's okay. Like, I had a great run with that. And I just feel like, you know, I was telling him that we have, you know, that when you get a certain age, you know, you want to be able to figure out how you can transition with grace into other things, right? And still keep your money coming in. So I still need that DJ money. I just don't want to go DJ every night, right? So I got to figure it out. So, you know, that's what I would say is that don't be afraid to pivot, reinvent yourself. Try something you hadn't tried before. Look at me. I mean, if somebody would have said 15 years ago, you know, like you said, I was known as this kind of urban tech guy. I definitely wasn't a comic book guy, but now I'm a comic book guy. And so somebody that just moved here to Seattle that doesn't know anything about me, they're going to just know me as comic book Kun. Right. They have no idea that I was like CSpot Kun and Ciroc Boy Kun and, you know, Big Fella Sportswear Kun and Twilight Kun and, you know what I mean? You know, Metropolitan Barbershop Kun and Black Santa Kun. And, you know, so, you know, I just always want to reinvent myself, stay relevant and be able to stay nimble, pivot, and always stay ahead of the trends, right? And create trends. And that's why one of my hashtags on my Instagram is I call myself the lane maker, right? Because I'm gonna always just make a new lane. If the freeway's getting full, I'm gonna just add a lane because I'm always gonna have the ability to expand and create and be able to execute to where I've created a new lane for myself and then for others to follow.
How does someone cultivate? How does someone cultivate the mindset and the determination that you have? Is that something you cultivate, or is that just a gift and a blessing?
Well, I mean, I like to think of it as a gift. Like I said, I feel like I'm highly blessed, and I am super blessed and highly favored. And I think that I was kind of trained up by my mother of just, you know, always having to be able to stick to this and see things through. And so I encourage people to see things through regardless. Even if, you know, don't give up, right? But yeah, it is a mindset that you have to work on, right? And again, I mean, if you look at just my latest, whatever achievement, if you want to call it that, with losing this weight and being, you know, into fitness, I was realistic with myself. And that's really what I think people have to do, is really take a look in the mirror and have a hard look at yourself and say, am I cut out for this? Because we all think we are, right? And it sounds good, but only you know, right?
Can't lie to yourself.
Yeah, you got to take a look in, you know, and I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, what are you going to do to make it happen? You know, and I most certainly, and I did that, right? So, yeah, I would say that yeah, there's all kinds of coaches and classes and YouTubes you can watch to get you motivated. Go ahead and watch Les Brown and whoever else, right? But until you're ready to make whatever kind of change that you're going to make in your life, only you can decide that, right? And no amount of inspiration, you know, I hear a lot of that where people say, oh, Kun, man, you inspire me. I say, okay, well, what's going to inspire you to keep going though? right? I might inspire you to get started.
Yeah.
Right. But only you can motivate yourself or inspire yourself to keep going. And you have to find something within yourself. Is it your kids? Is it your health? What is it in your life that's going to inspire you to keep going every day? Right. Because most certainly there's going to be people like me around, or whatever, YouTube video or show you saw, or news clipping that you read, or Instagram story, a TikTok story, whatever, that might inspire you to get started. But only you can inspire yourself to keep going.
Well, Kun, let me ask you this though, because we talking about mindset. Also, I think about it. Also, we talked about it on our last podcast. Like, you heard, like, it's kind of cliche, but it's pretty true. I think you're only the average of maybe, I know they say 5, but maybe it's a 10, whatever. But the average of the 5 people you're around. The types of personalities, like I'm big on energy. I'm big on energy, and I know how to dissect. I can feel energy. I can tell what people are about really quickly, and I know how to block that really quickly. When I was younger, I didn't do a good job of it. As I got older, I started having better discernment. How do you? Because you navigate so many different parts of the communities, so you come across all types of mindsets and things of that nature. How do you stay in your lane without getting so distracted by other people's ups and downs, or negativity, or over positivist stuff, or whatever they're doing, to stay true to you? And then who do you kind of surround yourself by to keep grounded and keep that idea of always moving forward?
You know what? Well, one, I try to have a real eclectic group of people. Like I pride myself on being able to go to the mayor's office all the way down to the corner of Rainier and Henderson. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, right? I'm around a lot of different people, and I try to meet people where they're at, right? I never try to, I don't want to stun on anybody, or I just really want to meet people where they're at, whatever their particular situation is, and what they're into. And I just try to listen to folks. But I was at my office and somebody else asked me this question. I actually had the whiteboard out. And what I explained to them, how I try, it really was a conversation around, why do I charge people for certain things, and why do I give my time to certain things, right? And the way that I explained it is that if I'm on a 3-lane highway, right? And I'm going north, right? I'm going up. And my goal is to get, my goal is clear. I know what I want to do, right? Like, so I've had a long, hard talk with myself. And like, I knew 3 years ago, I said, when I turn 50, I'm going to do all these things. And I did them. I knocked them all down because I had a goal, right? So I'm very goal oriented, and I have my goals to myself. I don't really broadcast them all on Facebook. Yeah, I'm going to do this, right? But I did set a goal. And, like my credit goal, I don't know if you guys saw that.
I saw it. I had
a credit book, right? And I said, I'm going to get my credit together for when I turn 50, right? So the point is, I'm very goal oriented. But secondly, what I do is I say I'm in my lane, right? This is my lane. And I might have my family lane, my personal lane, and then maybe my professional lane, right? However I want to break that down. But I'm on this 3-lane highway. And whatever I'm doing on my highway needs to help me reach my goals, right? And every now and then, somebody comes along in the 4th lane, right? And they want you to do whatever, right? They say, "Oh, Kun, man, we should do this thing, right? Yeah, I'm trying to open up so maybe they'll say, well, Kun, man, I got this publishing company, and I'm gonna be doing some books too. And maybe we could all be on a tour together, right? Now that's going to complement my direction, right? Because I'm doing the math on it. And so maybe they don't have any money to actually pay me to help with their project, but I can see that by me helping them, eventually it's going to help me too, right? So I want to, I'm not going too far. So I'm swerving a little bit, but I'm still on the highway, and I'm still kind of headed towards my goals, right? But I'm out of my lane, and I'm kind of in this lane now to help this project, but it moves me forward, right? But then you have people where they all the way off the freeway, right? You got to get off the, you got to get off the exit to meet them because their project is going a whole other direction. It's kind of like coming up I-90. I mean, or coming up I-5, and they want you to get on I-90, but I'm trying to go to Northgate, right? Like I could most certainly go to Northgate. I could go across I-90, up 405, come back around 520, and get to Northgate, right? But I need a check for that because you're taking me out my way, right? Yeah. It's not congruent. It's not helping me on my goal. So, you know, I guess so the point of that, right, is that any opportunity or people that I'm around, whether it's an opportunity that presents itself, whether it's a person or a place or what have you, I look at it and I compare it against my current set of goals, right? Whether it's my, like I said, my personal goals, you know, or my personal business goals, or with my career at the city goals, right? Like, how does this move me forward? Right. And if it does not move me forward in a significant way, that's taking me off the freeway. Right. And so I need to, and then I have to decide whether, okay, is this person somebody that I don't mind getting off the freeway for? Right. Oftentimes my mama will call me and want me to do something that has nothing to do with what I try to get done, but I most certainly have to get off the freeway.
That's mama.
Right. I can't charge her. Right. But or is this a person that, man, well, I'm gonna need a check for that because it's incongruent with everything I'm doing right now. And then
do people get mad when that happens?
Oh yeah. And then there's people where I say, you know what you're doing, I'm not even going to get off my freeway for that, right? Because it's not consistent with my brands or my goals or anything that I'm doing. So the example that I was telling you about, like this example of getting off on I-90, I know that it's going to lead back to I-5, right? It's a detour, right? But I can get back to I-5 and I'm going to get to Northgate. I'm just, I'm taking a detour and I'm taking time away from my schedule and I want to be paid for that. But I know that it's eventually going to lead me back to where I'm trying to go. But then there's people that just want you to get off in the hood. Right? Anyway, I'm not going to get off on Martin Luther King and then head back Renton Avenue South towards Renton when I said I was trying to go to Northgate, right? And so, you know, and those kind of people, I got into it with a brother. This was a couple years ago, and I was trying to tell this cat, like, look, my brand has moved on. Right. Yeah, I'm Kun Luv and all of that. Right. But I'm not going to be hosting mixtapes that are talking about, you know, pimping and selling drugs. Right. Like that's trafficking, bro. And he was like, you know, he's talking about he got his work on the track and he got his gun in the stash. Like, I'm not talking about that. Like, I have a nonprofit where I'm talking about empowering parents. Right. And engaging families. Why would I be on your mixtape talking about pimping and hoeing? Like, that's not congruent. And dude was kind of insulted, right? I mean, first of all, it was a, you know, first of all, it was flattering, right? The fact that I'm 50 years old and this cast is 22 that feel like they need Kun Luv on their mixtape, like that's a blessing, right? To still be that relevant, right? In the game, right? All of these years, right? I've been Kun Luv 30 years. Right. And the fact that somebody that wasn't even alive when I said, you know, when I first came up with, when they first started calling me Kun Luv, these cats is 22, 24. And
they saw their mama's CSpot stuff.
Well, yeah, but they see the brand and they feel in their mind, which is a blessing. They feel that I'm still relevant enough that they want to pay me to host a mixtape. Right. And so that's a blessing in itself. And I'm thankful for that. But I had to explain that your music is not consistent with my brand and what I'm about, right? You know, I got a daughter, you know, my daughter's 21. Right. So that's not my movement. Right. And my man was really like, oh man, stop that, Kun, I'll pay you double. Like, he wasn't hearing me. Right. I'm not getting off the freeway and heading backwards. Right. I don't care how much money you was paying me.
All money's not good money. Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to tell him, that I don't need that. Right. I'm good. Like, I might not be rich, but I'm sure not broke. You know what I mean? And so and he was kind of upset. He was offended that I didn't want to host his mixtape. And, you know, it was like, oh, and then I guess I heard, you know, they said, oh, he was hating. Like, oh, yeah, cuz hating on me. I'm not hating on you. That's not hating. That's me. I'm just saying that thank you. It's a blessing that you feel like I could be on your mixtape, right?
I think that's business though, because you know, like you said, branding. That's people don't understand how much you spent to build a brand and to do something that's that's true. He don't know about it. Yeah.
So he just didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And so that's, I guess, back to her original question. That's how I keep my mindset right. I look at everything that comes across my plate, and I say to myself, how does this move me forward? Right? How does this move me towards my goals? Is it helping me on my fitness goal? Is it helping me on my credit goal? Is it helping me on my personal goals? Is it helping me on the CSpot goals? Is it helping me at work? Like, how does this help me? Is it an opportunity that maybe if I do this for them, it can help my son or my kids down the road? Like, I'm looking at all of those things. And if it comes up goose eggs on all of that, then I say, well, I need a check, right? And then even some things I say, well, a check's not good enough. I'm not willing to do that. So that's how I stay focused, is I just always revisit all my goals every time I'm faced with an opportunity.
Do you have your stuff written up? Like me and Alvena were talking about earlier today, like I have this big, huge window I bought from Lowe's, and I was going to use it for something, you know, I do my DIY stuff. I was going to do some project, but now it's in my house, and I use it just to write, you know, whiteboard my stuff on there. And then Alvena's mentioned she got her whiteboards around the house now too.
I got whiteboards. Son got whiteboards. Put the goals on there. Put everything on there. To-do list. Money goals.
Yep. Do you keep your stuff like that? Or?
I do a lot of things like that. I would say that a lot of my big picture goals are just in my head, but I most certainly use a whiteboard when I'm visualizing things. Like I'll write it up on a whiteboard, and then what I do is I take a picture of the whiteboard, and I've got a file on my computer with all my whiteboard images.
Right? Oh, that's interesting.
I guess when I really hit a lick, I'm gonna go ahead and buy. I was somewhere and they've got a whiteboard where you just write on it, and you push a button and it creates a PDF of the whiteboard. But right now I'm still old school. Whiteboard. I take a picture with my phone.
Okay.
Love it.
I wanted to tap in something.
I know you could do one. You could do one more thing, Ed. Because you'll have us on here for 5 hours.
I know.
We're short on time, but I'm pulling your coattails. So go ahead. One last thing.
Technology, man. So I'm on this blockchain stuff, cryptocurrency stuff. I've been around it for a while. I knew about it before I even invested in it. I should have moved earlier, but it's still at the infancy, really, when people pay attention to what's really going on with technology. How do you stay? And I'm not just talking about blockchain stuff, but how do you take the time with all the stuff you're doing to understand the next things that are going on through technology, through politics, through whatever it is? And how do you divvy up your time to be able to get a return on investment by investing in those things? Like, what's your thought process for even understanding, like, what's the new tech thing or the new thing that you should go into, or maybe something for your family or your friends or your community? Like, how do you evaluate that type of stuff? And then you kind of mentioned what it does for you, but how do you even know about that stuff? Like, how do you?
Well, I'm just curious by nature, so I always go out and I'm just kind of paying attention to things. Like I've got a lot of not a lot, but some money tied up in like green and fuel cells, right? I think that's going to be the future. We got a lot of electric vehicles coming out, so I'm heavily invested in that sector. I'm not as much into the cryptocurrency. Just I know you can hit it big and all of that, right? But quite frankly, I haven't had the time, right, to watch it like that. And what I'm advising people and what I try to do is with my real money, I'm still in EFTs, and those are like 401, you know, where they're just funds, right? So I'm in a couple of EFT funds, and you really need to, if you don't have the time to research things, you need to kind of get into these funds and normalize what a good return is, right? If you're getting 10, 12, even 17% on your money, that's a win, right? Even 8% on your money is a win. And the problem with this cryptocurrency in our community is that people are investing at the wrong time, and they losing a lot, right?
Chasing everything. Yeah,
you're chasing returns, and you can't chase returns unless you're gonna, like you said, with the trademark piece, unless you're gonna do the due diligence and really, read up on these things and watch it. Really have your account set up where you're getting the alerts and all of those kinds of things. Then I'm trying to encourage people to normalize good returns and put money away that you don't plan on seeing for 10 years. Exactly. Right? And so, that entire conversation around cryptocurrency, I just feel like it's spoiling a lot of people. I had a young lady hit me up. I had turned her on to like Robinhood, and she was hitting me. She said, "Oh, Kun, what should I get in?" And I'm telling her, get on to Amazon, get on to Tesla. These are tried and true, investments. They're not going anywhere. The stock is going to go up over time. Hathaway, that type of investments, right? With Microsoft, Nike. Oh, yeah. These are things that we see all the time, and they are going to go up over time. Starbucks, T-Mobile, right? And so if you want to get into investing, I was saying get some stocks like that. And I believe the week that I had talked to her, she hit me back, and I guess she had got something, and the stock had went up like 18%. Like it was, but this was during the Dogecoin kind of blow up, right? In the GameStop and and these kind of boutique stocks, and so there's a frenzy. And the fact that she had $100 in and it made $18, that wasn't enough, right? And people want this more of a return.
She wanted that 20,000% return, and
I just pointed out that it's like really. That too. Yeah, so I would just say that I do dabble in the coins and kind of see what it's going to do. But my real money is in mutual funds and funds that are managed, EFTs, or it's in companies that I know are going to grow at a relatively nice rate of return. Like I said, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft, Starbucks. Right, blue chip stocks that over time are going to rise, right? Boeing, right? These are stocks that are going to rise, and so that's what I encourage people, and that's how I've looked at it, is to normalize what returns look like, because the market is really starting to affect a lot of people's expectation of what returns are.
And I want to add to that too, because this is the last thing I want to add to.
I got a question on it too, but go ahead.
So I agree with everything you just said, because I had a private banking internship, so I learned a lot about all that and how to balance your, this is back when Real Networks was like, who's that? And this guy that, this black dude actually I'm going to be working with or talk to try to work with, he was advising some of these high net worth lawyers to put a little bit of money in there. And they just did it because he's that tech guy that was in that stuff. They put a couple $1,000s in there. It went down to hardly nothing. He said, go put some more, because he knew the technology. He wasn't trying to get this huge return. He was just saying technology changes so much that you don't want to be unaware of it. But it wasn't like they put their life. Say these people had a high net worth, so them putting 10 to 15,000, that wasn't nothing. That was like, $1 to them. So it's like what you're saying too, is like the young lady or whoever trying to get these 1,000% returns, but that's your rent money you just put in there.
Yeah.
You can't be doing that. Now, if this is like me and Alvena, I have a conversation with her. I said, I've even told her and her son, this blockchain thing is different from the crypto self itself. Understand what that is. And there's opportunity to build an opportunity for yourself as far as knowing how to do the coding, knowing what it means, understanding like this could be like the Amazon before Amazon became huge, but you're not going to know that. So it's not like you can just take whatever. So I'm thinking like, take your $5 coffee money that you're putting out there all the time, start saving that up, or the money you're about to go spend at some crazy environment, spend half of that and take some of that money that you don't need, put it towards some of these things at a small percentage, just so you can understand it. Because, if your money's in it a little bit, even if it's $50, you start paying attention to it a little bit, start asking questions, do your homework, but don't think that it's a get rich quick scheme, because it's not. Just as fast as you can grow something, you can lose everything, especially if it's money you need to pay your mortgage or pay your rent or anything like that. So, and also, we're not giving no advice out here. We're not financial advisors. We're not giving no mental health.
Yeah. Be
advice.
clear, we're not.
Yeah, we're not doing
advisors.
none of that at all.
Disclosure.
Yeah, so do your own due diligence 24/7 because we're not those people. We're just talking about things out there in the ecosystem. So.
Yeah, I guess my only question to add to that is kind of like, little big fella. How does little big fella learn how to do the investments? What do you suggest for parents to get their kids looking at?
I would just say that on YouTube, there's lots of YouTubes right now that talk about how to invest and investing for kids. Again, everything that you would ever want to know is out there. The question is knowing the search term, right? And I would just put in there, investing for kids, how to talk with your kids about money. There's most certainly tons of YouTubes out there that really break down the basics. And that's what I would encourage you to do and other parents that are watching this to do is to, it's just to find that information. It's all on YouTube right now. And there's several books out there. I've had a couple of sessions and I think, 100 Black Parents, we most certainly might do another investment, Zoom or something with parents, but the information is out there. That's what I would encourage people to do is really just get started now, start talking about money. Me and my son, we just talking about, I'm going to be putting half of his money that he gets from working with me into 1/4 will go into a Roth, right? That, and so a Roth is an account that's, post-tax money that you can put in, and after 5 years, you'll get that money. You can begin to take it out because you pay tax on that money already. Those returns you can invest up to $7,000 or $9,000 a year in a Roth, and you'll get that money back. And then the other 1/4 of his money we're putting into a true 401k where those returns, you can't realize them until you're 62, right? But I've been explaining the concept of compound interest and the rate of return just from the market on a 401k. If you're 15 now, $10 today could be hundreds of dollars when he's 62, right? So, pretty excited about that. But again, I'm just curious by nature. And I guess what I would leave you with on that, and what I tell people all the time is that the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right, is that, Google, most certainly, Google, YouTube, the knowledge is out there, right? Like you really don't, you have the knowledge of the world in your hand right now, right? We all do with a smartphone. But the issue is where wisdom comes into play is you need to be wise to understand the question to ask Google, right? You have to be able to know what you're looking for because it's all there, right? To see of knowledge, but to find what you're particularly looking for is the wisdom is to know what question to ask and how to phrase that question, what keywords to look for. And how to interpret that information, right? And so I just encourage people to focus on both, right? But the internet is a wealth of information, but having the wisdom to know what you're looking for is key. Yeah, not get so distracted by everything. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kun.
I appreciate you guys having me on the show. And of course, I've been sharing it from day one when you guys started. So excited to be a part of it and be on the content. And I'll look for it and continue the great work.
And we appreciate it, man. Yep.
Well, I'm glad to be in your network and to stay in your network and all the things that you got going. Of course, it's inspirational for us. And I was like, we got to have Kun on the show. We mention him way too often.
and as a Black man too, I'm 46, about to be 47, but I look at it like you're like the big brother, the uncle type personality that you have wisdom. You're only a few years older than me, but your wisdom is so vast that it's kind of interesting. Like how much people can learn because you've actually done the things that people are thinking about doing. You've already done a lot of that already. It's almost like they can just be listening to you and be like, that's how you should do it. You hear, he's already telling you how to do it. He's giving you the blueprint.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Like, yeah, my son was like, "Oh, Kun Luv's going to be on there. I'm watching that episode."
Well, I appreciate you guys, man. I'm getting ready to go for my walk, man. It's 8:00, so I appreciate you, and I'll be sure to tune in.
Okay, all right, man. Thank you.
Thanks to both of you. I'm going to bed.
Y'all too. All right. Very good, y'all. So, man, that was a great episode, and Kun's about to go walking, and I think I'm gonna try to go walking too because I need to lose some weight. So, this is a great interview, and we're out. All right, thanks. Bye.
If you want to free your mind and have that positive energy, you'll find it's a place that's full of joy. Because we laugh and have fun, and we learn how to stay healthy. If you want to keep your energy high, tune into Caffeine